I've been all over the world in press conferences, and you'll ask a question and you'll say, no. And then the interpreter will talk for 15 minutes. And you think, what are they saying?
Allora,
All the hats in the movie also came from Rome. My wife is a costume designer, and Italy has some of the finest costume designers in the world. And the British, actually, interestingly enough, the best costume design and best costume makers for films have always come from Italy and from Britain, not France, and strangely. Hollywood used to have all these fabulous workshops filled with Italians. But yeah, the hats and shoes were made here. In Scotland, they're very infamous. I mean, they're tourist attractions, very much like Jack the Ripper in London. But I was at Ealing Studios visiting my friend, Gorinda Chadha, who's a British filmmaker who has an office there. And I was telling her how much I admired the old Ealing comedies, especially. They made a whole series of black ones, Kind Hearts and Coronets, Lady Killers, Man in the White Suit. Comedies, even I'm All Right, Jack, comedies with a very dark undertone. And I said how much I admired those films, because they were so, Kind Hearts and Coronets is this witty, elegant movie in which Dennis Price plays a serial killer and murders Alec Guinness like 8 times, different characters. It's so blatantly black, and I enjoyed that. And so she said, why don't you talk to Barnaby Thompson? Who? Barnaby has restarted Ealing as a picture company. So I did. I met with Barnaby. This was only a year ago. I met with Barnaby Thompson, and we talked. And I told him how much I admired the old films, and he said, I have a script that might interest you. And he gave me a screenplay, Burke and Hare, which was 6 years old. And it was written by Piers Ashworth and Nick Moorcroft. Don't you love those names? Piers Ashworth and Nick Moorcroft. They sound like characters in a Sherlock Holmes book. Anyway, but what appealed to me was these were really terrible people. And Burke and Hare were horrendous, terrible, cold-blooded killers. It's a terrible story. That the true story is worse than the story we tell. And it's been made, I guess, 15 or 16 times. I've found, I even found just recently in a Hammer film called Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, Burke and Hare characters in it. I went, oh, look, 17. But anyway, the best one's probably the British film called Flesh and the Fiends. But Robert Wise made The Body Snatcher, Boris Karloff, Val Lewton picture, based on the Robert Louis Stevenson story, which is based on, Jesus Christ, I'm exhausted. I'm all burnt and jet-lagged. Burke and Hare. And one of the things, did you ever see The Doctor and the Devils? Well, Doctor and the Devils is also Burke and Hare. It was written by Dylan Thomas, and it's a great play. The movie's not very good because Freddie Francis rewrote Dylan Thomas. He's got a lot of balls, But anyway, the idea of taking these bad guys and this dreadful story and making them attractive leading men was so perverted, especially, I read it and I said, you guys are trying to make Charles Manson into Sidney Carlton, the hero of Tale of Two Cities. And I said, that's outrageous. And so I worry that people are thinking that I'm making some kind of horror comedy or something, but in fact, my intention is to make a romantic comedy. And, I'm making a movie about murder and dissection and grave robbing and vivisection, and I want it to be sweet. So that's a challenge, and so that's what I did.
altre domande?
Well, I get nothing on my headphones. Television and movies, there's a strange thing going on in the movies now, which is that because money is so tight around the world, and it's so expensive to market a movie. I mean, it's common, very, very common for studios to spend more money selling a movie than making them. The economics have gone screwy, plus the studios are now owned by multinational corporations, so everything's changed, and that means that they don't take as many risks, and so they want to take safe, conservative, mass audience, comic book movies, things that have pre-sold titles, remake sequels and stuff. Television, which I've always thought television was pretty good, but what's interesting is that television now has become you can make pictures for cable television that the studio won't make for theaters. So in TV, you can do wonderful things now. And there is great television being done now. But I don't think it's a competition. I think it's cyclical. And they're showing the movie here called The Social Network, which I saw about 2 weeks ago, and I'm thrilled. It's a wonderful movie. And I was so excited because it's the kind of movie that Hollywood hasn't made in a long time. And it was thrilling for me because it's wonderful dialogue, it's well made, it's an interesting story. These days, I look back at the 70s and the 80s and I look at pictures like Network, Chinatown, and so many great movies. They wouldn't make those movies now. So, I like television. I don't have any problem with television.
There's also the question about Trading Places on Italian TV every Christmas.
I did not know Trading Places was on Italian TV every Christmas. And is it with commercials?
I suppose so, yes.
I'm not happy about that. But it's in Italy and England and France. They show it every Christmas. In the United States, they show it anytime they want. And I'm pleased, though. That's nice. Andy's a better actor. I'm sorry, start again. They're both great actors. Simon is a better actor than he knows. He's wonderful. And this is the first movie where he's been asked to play a character who's so different than he is. Andy Serkis, it's also the first movie, other than King Kong, where he's played a sympathetic character. He's always playing grotesque. And it was very important you like these guys. And they're wonderful actors. I had a lot of wonderful actors. Jessica Hines, I just adore her. And Ida Fisher, and Tom Wilkinson, and Tim Curry. I mean, just so many good actors in that movie. They don't want to make it. It has nothing to... It's such a bizarre premise that, that filmmakers have always worked around the world. Always. And you go where the subject is, and where you get the money. But that's a strange question. I mean, I think that what happens is journalists want a scenario that they can write, and they're always disappointed when we go, no, that's not. But no, mostly I didn't work because after Blues Brothers 2000, I was so pissed off at the studio and what they did to the movie. I never had that happen before, and it was my first experience with the new corporate committee movie making. And although I loved the music in that movie, they completely fucked it up. Then they retimed it so it looked bright. And I was very upset by that. So I said, fuck them, and I just stopped. But I really like filmmaking. And so I made feature-length documentaries and done a lot of television. I made a lot of stuff you wouldn't even know about because I don't sign it. When you do stuff for charity, you don't put your name on it. But I like making movies. I'm happy to make a studio movie. I mean, that's why I was so excited by The Social Network, because look at that. They got a studio, they're giving them money for that. That was very exciting, and it's a great film. So, who knows?